All right. It's 17:30. I think we can get started. I see there we have about 15 people on the call, so that's good enough. Yeah. So today, it's going to be a fairly short presentation. Recommendation letters is what we are looking at. Once I've done the presentation, I think I'll be able to demonstrate some letters of recommendations which are good, which is bad. And yeah, basically, those two types of recommendation basically focus on three types of recommendation letters in this presentation. The first one will be the uh, the, the one for the university, the a recommendation letter that you're supposed to submit or your referee is supposed to submit to a university. And then we'll look at an example of a recommendation letter that was written for a Chevening um, applicant who actually made it. And then we're also going to look at one more for Commonwealth, which raises a lot of questions, the personal recommendation letter. Like who is supposed to do that and how are they supposed to do, how are they supposed to write it? So the presentation is fairly short and hopefully within an hour we'll be done. But before we're done, I just want to make an announcement that uh, the recordings of these meetings, of this meeting will be made available on YouTube, on my YouTube page. So if you're not subscribed to my YouTube page, please head over to the YouTube page and subscribe so that you don't miss a recording. It will be good that at the time that you're drafting some of these letters of recommendation that you refer back to this recording because it's very important. As I said, recommendation letters are something that you have little control over, but they can actually determine your destiny. So a bad recommendation can tank your chances. So here we go. Okay. So what is a recommendation letter, basically? So this is a formal letter written by a teacher. Can be a teacher, a professor, mentor, academic advisor to support your application for academic program or scholarship. So there are different times that we require recommendation letters. You can be applying for a job. You might need a letter of recommendation or for a scholarship or to a university for a course that you would like to pursue. So these are written by different people. And the questions that I always get is who should write a recommendation letter? And I hope we'll get to that as the presentation goes on. So I always use this slide show, this slide that I'm showing now about the joint Japan World Bank scholarship. which clearly outlines what your recommendation, the account for the entire assessment that you're being assessed. So if you look at this scholarship, there are about four criteria which they use, which assessors use to review an application and score an application, taking a scale of 1 to 10. And the first one is the professional experience. This accounts for 30% of the weight. The second one is the quality of your professional recommendation. That accounts for 30% of your weight. And then the third one is the quality of commitment to your home country. So are you going to go back to your home country? Are you going to demonstrate that you're pursuing a certain course through this scholarship to better your home country? And then again, then there's quality of education, which accounts just for 10%. And I use this to encourage those that may not have very good results in their undergraduate degree or first master's degree and are wondering whether can be accepted or they can proceed. If you don't have this qualification, if the qualifications are not so good, you didn't score very well, you should be thinking critically about looking at a wide range of scholarships, including the Joint Japan World Bank Group Scholarship, because it doesn't add a lot of weight to your education background. But what is concerning also is the amount of weight that it adds to the letters of recommendation. Adding a weight of 30% is quite huge because most times we don't really have a lot of control on our referees and what they could read. Post Chevening doesn't clearly state what weight they attach to letters of recommendation, but you will see that the letters of recommendation are a very important aspect of the scholarship as we go on. Okay, so how many different types of letters of recommendations do we have? So for Chevening, they would ask for two specifically. Can be academic, can be professional, both can be academic or both can be professional. Um, but as a rule of thumb, if you've been in school I mean, if you graduated not more than 3 years ago from either from a master's or an undergraduate degree, it's advisable that you include an academic referee. But of course, Chevening doesn't explicitly say it on the site. So either way is acceptable. Could have completed school a long time ago, 5 years ago. You don't have access to your referees. You don't know where they are, or so much time has passed. You're not even sure whether they may remember you. So you may go with professional letters of recommendation. The Commonwealth Scholarship is very prescriptive. They ask for three referees. So one has to be academic, other one has to be a leader, and then the third one is a personal referee. But this personal referee doesn't have to be your friend. And people you always ask, but what kind of person could this person be? And I hope as we go on, I'll be able to elaborate and show an example of a person who wrote for me the recommendation letter, who was not a friend, but was some sort of mentor to me. And it was one of those good letters of recommendation. So that's the way it is going with recommendations. So again, when your referees are about to submit your letter of recommendation, each scholarship or course or whatever it might be has got specific instructions of what they look out for. So, and I think this is the most difficult thing that a lot of applicants face, how to ask your referee to craft a recommendation letter which takes into account the things that the scholarship body is looking out for. So for Commonwealth, already they are so prescriptive, okay? They want the referee to comment on these things. How long and in what capacity the referee has known the applicant. So Could be so many years, or from the time you were in school, or ever since you started work, it's 3 years, 4 years. What kind of relationship is this? Is it a supervisor relationship? Or was it like at school? Was this person your referee? I mean, your lecturer or tutor? All that thing has to know how long they have known you. They need to speak, because that adds the credibility of their recommendation letter. And they should specifically speak on the your suitability for the proposed scholarship and the need for the particular subject of study in the UK. And so your referee should able to outline whether you have the ability to pursue a specific course. And this is where an academic referee comes in handy, because they can speak to your strength as a student and how you are able to study and get certain grades that you got. Um, on the suitability of the study, they should be able to outline what you pursuing that course, how is that going to help your community, your nation. That has to be indicated in the application. And they also need to highlight how you, as an applicant, have been able to grasp concepts and reason analytically. So there should be those examples in your in the letter. The capacity for original thought. They shouldn't just speak that this candidate has capacity to think originally. They should be able to give specific examples that demonstrate how you explored this or how you exhibited this original thought. And then there should be some motivation. They should be able to demonstrate that you're motivated and you'll be able to achieve your objectives. Also, they should speak of your strength and weaknesses, though it's better to just end at strength. There's no harm. They don't speak about your weaknesses. My referees never spoke about my weaknesses, but spoke about my strength. And then your potential to impact development in your country. They should speak about this in a way that, with a little bit of evidence, looking at how they've interacted with you, and also other qualities which maybe have not been listed by the Commonwealth. So you can imagine someone who's assessing your overall application, who have a checklist of these things that I've highlighted. They are on the website, so that there isn't any doubt in what should be in the letter of recommendation. So your referee, you need to send a link to your referee to see this page, what is required of them, and make sure that when they do the letter, they are able to, check each each point that they've been able to do that, which can be a little bit tedious for a referee, especially if you're trying to apply for multiple scholarships in one scholarship in one scholarship window. And by this I mean, let's say you want to apply for Chevening, also a Commonwealth scholarship, and maybe some other scholarship that you might be considering. And each of them has got specific asks on what should be going to that letter of recommendation. So if you do one generic one, and this is why I say each scholarship should have, if you've got one referee and you're applying to Chevening and Commonwealth, each scholarship should have a specific letter of recommendation that speaks to exactly what is being what is being requested. If you do one generic one that is supposed to cover both of the scholarships, you might not get a very good letter of recommendation. And some of you just thinking about this will think, oh gosh, so do I need, how am I going to get this letter of recommendation? How am I going to, my referee is busy. Maybe my referee is a minister somewhere, some big person. They have no time. How are they able to do all this, right? But again, keep in mind what I taught in the previous lecture, that ask yourself, what is it that I'm willing to do that the majority of people are not willing to do? Because believe me, a lot of people think this is tedious and I can't do that. and end up not doing what is requested. As a result, you have a lot of problems. Okay, you won't go as far as you could potentially go if your referees have not done their due diligence. That's why you need to be very, very careful that you ensure that the person that is able to the person that you request to provide a letter of recommendation actually knows what they're talking about. Going on, Chevening again is a little bit is a little bit not so specific, but of course they say a few things. So, instruction for the referee, the letter must be written in English, which is almost obvious and straightforward. But if not, the applicant must submit the original reference along with a notarized English translation. Okay? And bear in mind that the notary should be in the country from which you um, obtained your qualification. So let's say, for instance, you studied in Russia, right? And you're asking someone to provide a letter of recommendation who was maybe a professor from Russia. They don't speak English, but they are willing to do one in Russian. If you're going to do a notarized one, make sure it's notarized in at least the country of origin, which makes it easy. The second bullet point is something that a lot of referees miss. So it says it must be addressed to the British Embassy or High Commission in the applicant's country or territory. So already the Commonwealth that is silent on who to address this um, recommendation letter. But for Chevening, they are very specific, the British Embassy and High Commission. So as already here you see conflict that you can't have one that you submit both to Commonwealth and because they're different instruction. So your referee should include contact details, address, email, phone number, which is quite straightforward. If they use a headed paper, sometimes might be using an institutional headed paper, which has got institutional addresses, email and phone number, which might be a little bit difficult to channel to a specific. So if they're using an institutional headed paper, let them also add some information, their personal information, their phone number, email, and address. The length of time they've known the applicant, which is very important. This is also mentioned by the Commonwealth. So that has to be there, and the capacity in which you know the applicant. They know the applicant. So is it a supervisor, supervisee, a relationship? Is it mentor-mentee relationship? Or is it an academic relationship? Okay. And then when you last had regular contact, which is quite straightforward, but a lot of people miss it, you know. Was it last week from the time if you work in the same department, they're doing weekly meetings, or if the person was an academic referee at your school. Yes, you were at school, you left school maybe 3 years ago, but have you had any contact with them? No. When did you last have regular contact? That has to be there because that will be checked. Okay, and then the letter should provide a brief endorsement of the applicant covering their leadership and networking skills, personal, interpersonal qualities, and their ability to complete a demanding academic program in the UK. So here again, if you look at this recommendation letter, it should mirror the 4 S's that you provide. So it is very interesting if you're providing your information to your referee to provide a letter of recommendation, add the S's that you've written to support your studies because your referee will need to refer back to them so to have an idea of the things and speak on how on your leadership qualities. And fun fact, if what you have in a letter of recommendation is mirroring some of the things that you've included in your letter of recommendation, I mean in your essays, that really boosts your chances. And when you mention things from different angles, let's say you say, "Oh, my supervisor was happy with this, and they ended up promoting me to this because of this thing that I did." And then if your referee is speaking with the same, I like his originality. how original this person is and what they've done. And as a result, they did this thing which I was really impressed with, which earned them a promotion. It seems that there is congruence, there is agreement between what you've written and what your referee actually has written. So it has to be a mirror of what you've written about in your essays. So before you send that, make sure you have at least draft essays so that the referee can reach out to them. So once they've completed the letter of reference, they should give it to you. So in the past, Chevening had this thing where I think they would send a link and the referee was supposed to attach a letter of recommendation to that link. But now they send it back to you, which is very advantageous because first of all, you can see what they've written. And if you don't like it, don't upload that letter of recommendation, right? So it's good that you're supposed to they're supposed to send the letter back to you, and there you are supposed to input the letter into the system at the time. Nowadays, in those days, you could upload it, but nowadays you take it at the time of interviews. That's the time you upload them. At the time of submitting your application, you just need to include the email addresses of your referees, their names, of course, their contact details and email addresses. Okay. So which comes to who should write for you? Um, uh, and a lot of people get confused. Um, as, because I post on LinkedIn regularly. Somebody reached out to me and said, could you be my referee? I barely know this person. I've never interacted with them, and they were asking me to be their referee, which was quite odd. So your referee should be someone who knows you well, right? Someone who knows you well. That they can write convincingly about you and convince the panel that you are the right person for the scholarship. And of course, this is easy if you're in a professional, if you work, your supervisor who knows your work can speak to you. It becomes a little bit challenging when you want to include an academic referee. This take a little bit of time. They might have forgotten you. They have thousands and thousands of students each academic year. So it's difficult for them to remember who you are. Then someone who has credibility. So someone who's like your supervisor has credibility. You put a peer, it might be very difficult for that person to have credibility. That person is just your friend. Maybe you work together. They don't have any supervisory authority over you. It becomes difficult. That's not a very credible referee. But if you pick someone who knows you, someone who has credibility, if it's a professor at your previous university, these already have credibility, some people would want to go for someone who has a big title, like the example I gave of a minister. But a minister would barely know you, or maybe they may, but of course, they come with a lot of credibility. But those people that have a lot of credibility, it's also very difficult to get a letter of recommendation out of them. It's very difficult. So as I mentioned, can be academic, professional, to supervisor, and so on professional, if your supervisor sometimes may not be in good terms with the supervisor, you can always go to your supervisor, as long as they are familiar with your work, they can comment. That's exactly what I did when I applied for the Commonwealth Scholarship. I didn't go with my supervisor, but I went with my supervisor's supervisor, if that makes sense. And because the man knew me well, before he was promoted, he had worked with me. So time I was getting a new supervisor, my supervisor, I thought that's the person who knew me well enough to provide me a letter of recommendation that I was happy with. So you can have mentors provide a letter of recommendation, and that's what I actually ask people to, especially those that are applying for the Commonwealth, because there's that personal referee which you're supposed to have. So let's say you have someone in the profession, in your profession, that's someone you look up to that has been guiding you throughout the steps. That person is not your relative, you could use that. And for me, I was privileged to have one referee who I knew professionally. I followed their work, I reached out to them. We got to know each other personally. And this person has written for me, I don't know how many letters of recommendation for different things, including professionally for work, for scholarship. They've always been my go-to person. So if you have such a person, that can be a good referee for that Commonwealth personal referee that they look out for. So then who shouldn't write? So I just want to be explicit here. A family or a personal friend, that's a no-no. Those people shouldn't write for you. Someone who doesn't know you well, just because they have a big title, think, oh, this is a professor with so many publications, this is a renowned professor. I would want them to write for me. That's not it. A high government official, like a minister or permanent secretary, or whoever it might be, as long as they don't know you well enough, it's difficult to it's difficult for them to write a convincing letter of recommendation. Fun fact, the Chevening had written that they're looking for details. And by the way, at the interview stages, once they need to make a decision, they may reach out to your referees just to ask them a little bit about you. If maybe there's a toss-up between two candidates and they just want to pick up one, they may reach out. I know of a referee that was called to give a little bit of something talk about the person. But when they called that person, couldn't vouch for the candidate convincingly because they didn't know that person well enough. So keep that in mind. Your referees may be called uh, just to provide more information on a candidate. Also, someone unrelated to the field you're applying for, that becomes a little bit difficult. If you're in the field of health, maybe your referee is someone who's maybe in the banking sector, in the finance sector, and they can't, they want to talk, they need to talk about your achievement, but they can't because they don't know what happens in your sector. So you have to be very careful about picking people that is completely out of your sector. Someone you haven't informed properly, and this is this I see this more often than not. People just put a person's name without even informing them, or maybe informing them casually. They get an email and they just ignore it, especially for some applications that which they need to do uh, in the system. So if you haven't informed them properly, do not include them. Do not include them as your referee, especially for Chevening, which has got a little bit of issues when it comes to changing someone after you've submitted your application. So be very, very careful about who you choose. And then someone who's unreliable and responsive. These are people that are busy. They've got a lot of things going for them, and you are just like a very small part of their life. Maybe very difficult for them to prioritize you. Uh, Time I was applying for my scholarship, a colleague of my friend, a friend of mine, and I were almost applying at the same time. I picked someone who knew me very well and was less busy. He picked someone who was like the head of the institution. I knew him well, but the man had no time. So the time he submitted the letter of recommendation, and that's the time when recommendation was submitted directly by the referee, couldn't go through because he was late. He was late, basically. So be very careful. Someone, make sure the person who you are picking will be there to provide a letter of recommendation when you need it, right? So that is that. So how should referees be submitted, right? There are different ways for different systems. So I'm going to talk about university system, and I'll talk about Chevening and Commonwealth. So this is a screenshot for a course. I think this is Oxford. As I said, especially these top 10 universities, these who just send a link to your referee. So as you can see there in shaded, it says the referee, the reference is supposed to be submitted directly by the referee. So you upload the referees are supposed to upload the letters to the application themselves, right? Not you as an applicant. So how does this happen? During your applications, you just insert the email addresses of your referee, and then they'll send them an email, right? Once they've sent them that email, it's now up to you to follow them up and ask, did you receive an email? If you've done, yes, this is what can be. Have you submitted or do you need help with the submission of that later? So now it's a little bit difficult, especially for this kind of, because sometimes you may not know how the letter of recommendation looks like, how what the email says. So what I've done myself, if I'm inserting an email and I don't know how it looks, the first application I'll do a trial application where I use maybe an email address that I don't really use that much, and when it comes to referees, I put at least a referee that an email that I can see what comes. Or if you're referring someone that you know very well, once they submit, you can ask them, can I look at the instructions in the email and how it's supposed to be? Because there are two things. Sometimes your referee might be requested to submit the letter of recommendation on a headed paper and just upload it. For some, and this is the easiest, honestly speaking. For some, they'll provide a link in the web where they ask specific questions and your referee is supposed to respond. How long have you known this person? 3 years. What is your relationship? This relationship. Can you talk about the time when this referee did this and then they submit? This is the one which I find to be very tedious for most referees because they don't have time to start submitting, typing words and essays and essays in a portal. So, but if you know what is requested, then as we talk about how you can help your referee to submit a compelling letter of recommendation, I'll give an example of what you can do to help them. Okay, so this is for a university. Some universities top above 50 or top 20 to 50, most of them would just ask you to submit the letter itself, just upload it, expect you to have it. But for these top 10 universities, these high-end universities, most of them will send a link to your referee and it's up to your referee to complete. So keep that in mind. This one is a screenshot from the Commonwealth application. Uh, as you can see, when it comes to references there, it's very clear. Scans of your three references, each on institutional letterhead or an email clearly showing the sender's details merged into one file. So here, this is where it's very important to keep to read the instructions and understand. Here, the instructions are put everything in one file and submit. Should be an institutional letterhead or an email. And when we talk about email, the email should be an official email. So no Gmail, no Yahoo, no Hotmail. It should be at an organization.com or dot whatever. And for this, for some people, this is why you run into a lot of problems. There's one mentee last year who was supposed, who couldn't, who needed to submit this for the Commonwealth Scholarship, but their boss didn't have an official email. They worked for the government, and they didn't have a government email. And for the letterhead according to this ministry, they could only be uh, only the head of the institution could write on that letterhead. So can you imagine? They had found a very good referee, but they couldn't get the instructions. They couldn't. They didn't. This person didn't have an email address, a government email address, and again, the institutional letterhead. They didn't have that. They couldn't use that, because it's only used by the head of the institution. So you can find yourself in such a situation. That's why you need to be very careful and also be mindful of what is needed. If you just submitted anything, it might not go far. Okay, so we've talked about things that you need. Now let's talk about how to get a strong recommendation. How do you get a strong recommendation? And a strong recommendation is a recommendation that is responding to what the scholarship body is asking for. Okay? So you should contact your referees as early as possible. I think that's why I've decided to have this session early on in the application process. You need to reach out to your referee as early as possible, inform them that there's this that is coming. This is very important because it gives you time to reach out on a personal level to your referee. If your referee is someone that you've not talked to in a long time, you can reach out to them, schedule even an in-person visit. You can have dinner together, have coffee, and just talk about what you need from them. That's why if you pick someone who's not very busy, this will work to your advantage. So at least minimum, it means to be a month before the deadline. If you go over, if you tell them 3 weeks before or a week before, that might not be ideal. So for things like Commonwealth Scholarship, you need 3. I say reach out to at least 6, at least have someone who backstops the person your primary, just in case things don't work out with your primary, you know. And then when you reach out to your referees, set your own deadline. You know, most of applicants will give the deadline, the actual deadline to the referee. So Chevening, for instance, if I use Chevening as an example, closes on the 7th of October. You don't tell them it closes on the 7th of October. Tell them, you know what, 31st September, or I mean 30th September is when this is the deadline. Believe you me, there are so many referees that you get to the deadline and most of them, I'm sorry, I got busy, I didn't get to it, I apologize. They'll be apologizing, but you'd have lost out on the chance. Like my colleague I talked about, which was someone who was the head of the institution, and that person was so busy. But suppose you had given that person ample time and given them his own deadline, which is at least a few days before the actual deadline. So if they failed to complete, you know, on that deadline that he gave, they couldn't have, I mean, he could still have gotten a referee, a letter of recommendation which was valid, right? And this is one where you submit directly into the system. So give them your own deadline, let them work towards your own deadline, which is a few weeks before the actual deadline, so that you're not caught wanting. Okay. So for me, usually I give it like 3 days or maybe a week before the actual one. Of course, and you may be wondering, well, if it's, for instance, if it's Chevening or Commonwealth, none of those are going to, I mean, some, those that are really sticklers can check, when Chevening closes, but most of them will just depend on your word. So when do you need this by? 30th of September. You just tell them that, and you get that. Don't speak to the actual deadline. So when you reach out to them, don't. That's why it's very important to say, I want. When you reach out to them before time, ask them how they want this to be done. You can say, there are a few things that I feel will be important to be highlighted because Uh, these are the things that I did. Most of them would just say, "Oh, yeah, just send me your CV and I'll write something," you know. And this is where you need to ask clearly. Would you mind sending me a draft? Would you mind if I send you a draft of some of the accomplishments which I think you may highlight? Those which you do not agree with, you may remove. For those that you agree with, you could, amplify and just make it coherent. Believe you me, 99% of the time they'll say, yeah, yeah, that's fine. I would appreciate a draft because it takes away the stress from them. And most of them will just sign your draft, unfortunately. But this gives you an opportunity. Means you could craft your draft in such a way that it responds to all these requirements that the scholarship committee is asking for. You can craft, make sure that you respond to each prompt um, in a way. And but be very careful. Don't overpraise yourself, but also sing your praises that you know that your referees will be comfortable with approving. Personally, what I did when I applied to Harvard, one of my referees said, we had a virtual coffee chat, talked about my time. This person, I met this person when I participated in the Mandela Washington Fellowship. So this was a professor at University of Wisconsin. He knew me well. We've been in contact ever since. He used to sing praises about Mandela Washington. Wherever we go, his introduction will be like, "Oh, so many people, 60,000 people applied. I mean, yeah, 60,000 people applied. And these few have been selected. They're the cream of the cream." He would sing our praises. So I thought, you know what, this is a guy who's already singing my praises. Why not use him for this? And I'm very sure he did write a very strong letter of recommendation. He wrote about my time there in the US and also talked about uh, what I was doing now and how I'd grown career-wise. I was very impressed, and I'm sure he did sing my praises in that letter. Although I didn't see it, but I'm very confident that he did. So that helps. If you could get on a call, talk to them, it means going to the facility, to the facility, going to the university, inviting them for dinner, you know, talking over dinner or just visiting, paying a visit to them, just remind them of who you are. Let them see your face, learn of your accomplishments so that they can do a good write-up, especially if they decline a recommendation, a draft recommendation. Now, if they decline a draft recommendation, most of them will request for a CV. Say, okay, give me a CV. Now, that CV that you send to them should be what I call an expanded CV, right? It shouldn't be as concise as possible. A CV these days, they say should be about a page or two. This one can even be a couple of pages. But what you do now in the bullet points, instead of just leaving them the way they are, explain in paragraph. Don't just say I achieved this score by applying this initiative or achieve something, how we write those bullet points in the CV. There you write paragraphs of what happened, so that your referee can remember. And believe you me, most of the times they'll just maybe cut and paste that same information. So make it easy for them. Put it in in a Word version. Um, on the comment section of the document, explain, don't know if you remember this thing that I did and this time you were really impressed, what. I don't mind if you would mention this. That is where you send them an expanded CV, right? Which speaks to all those things. And if you want an example of that expanded CV, you could reach out. They'll be able to provide. So again, if it says it has to be on official headed paper, please let it be on official headed paper. If it says it has to be an official email, a printout of an official email, please let it be that. Follow the instruction. And then again, submit all your recommendation letters with your application if you can. Okay. So again, Your referees, it's good to have a couple of referees that can reach out to you. If you can get to six, that's even better. I know of one scholarship, the Rhodes Scholarship, that requires up to six people. That's a huge number of people to submit letters of recommendation. But again, when you have just a few referees, you could overwhelm them with the asks, because believe you me, you need a lot of referees if you would want to implement the strategy that I teach. Okay, where you want to spread your bets, you apply to at least three different scholarship bodies: Commonwealth, Chevening, and maybe even one or two university specific, you know, um, scholarships. And then for each scholarship, they will have instructions for the referee. So if you just have one or two, you may overwhelm them. So try to get as many as you can. Again, it's advisable to attach your personal statements. If your referee requests for the CV, you can even add your personal statement to showcase what or the essays for Chevening or Commonwealth, just to showcase your direction and how you're thinking and some of the things that you're highlighting. That's very important. And then again, if we look at the info for referees, the link should be what um, Chevening or maybe a Commonwealth request. There's that page. Find that page on the website. Send that page. I'll ask your referees if they want more information on what is requested of them. Send it. If nowadays some people can be lazy, get a screenshot. Send it on WhatsApp. Just make it as easy as it is for them to know what they're supposed to do. Because remember, as I said it again and again, Chevening last year had an overwhelming response. 102,000 people applied for less than 2,000 spaces. So ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing to go above and beyond what the rest of the applicants are doing? There are 26 of you in this meeting. What is it that you're doing that the other 25 are not doing? That should be your mindset as you go forward. So, common mistakes to avoid: generic or vague statements. I don't even have to say, no, this one has always been a good student, or this one is a hard worker. It doesn't, it's generic, it's vague. Specific examples with numbers, that show impact. Let those be there. Yeah, failing to proofread for errors. Okay. What should you do? If you get your letter of recommendation, make sure the errors they've been removed. Sentences that don't make sense, all those things are not there, especially if you are able to see it. Too short or overly lengthy or overly brief letters, shouldn't be too long. Pages and pages, between 500 to 1,000 words is recommended. But of course, it depends on your board and what they're asking for. But between 500 to 1,000 words, that's a good number. I mean, that's a good length. 1 to 2 pages is okay. If you could squeeze it on one page, even better. But not something so just generic. And then again, not following instructions, which happens a lot of times. Say, oh, you want a letter of recommend? Don't worry, we have a template that we use at this university. If it's a university, you go, oh yeah, as a dean of this thing, there's a template that we use. I'm just gonna pull that out, and then you're not following the instructions, and that makes your letter of recommendation not very strong. So far, so good. Um, so what I'm gonna do now, in the next, pardon me, what I'm going to do in the next, maybe, yeah, 30 minutes or so is to demonstrate a few letters of recommendation, and we see how they're supposed to be. and what makes them a good example. I think I'll start with one, which I think is not a very good example. So, can you still see my screen? Can I get some feedback? Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can see it.
What can you see?
The University of Zambia.
Fantastic.
Can you
Fantastic.
enable to proceed?
Okay. So if you look at this, it's a nice headed paper. It's been looks like a well-written recommendation letter, But here are a few things. So this colleague got this for, I think it was for Chevening. I told them to discard this because it didn't fit. So I'm gonna read it so that you can see. Obviously it's on a headed paper. It's got information for, I don't know if it's for the referee or for the school itself. The date, first mistake we saw there was it was to whom it may concern. Chevening is very clear that it has to be written to the High Commission or the British Embassy. Letter of support for this person. Okay. So on behalf of the University of Zambia School of Medicine, I'm proud to strongly support this person's application. I'm currently serving as the whatever in this capacity. I oversee UNZA School of Medicine student training. There is an abbreviation there. As a student, this person was focused and well motivated and completed her training as a biomedical scientist. A very vague statement, which is not saying anything. Currently, she's this position at this field office, Ministry of Health. She's also done further training and obtained a certificate in public management and governance from the University of South Africa. Building local research and clinical capacities among the highest priorities of the government of the Republic of Zambia. At the UNZA School of Medicine, we recognize the need to develop a core of early stage health practitioners, therefore means full support of the training plan of this person. In summary, this person is an ideal candidate for your program and she has my strong backing in her goals to become a national skilled worker. So you can see just how not so good this letter of recommendation is. It's weak, no metrics, know how long the person they've known you, when they last had regular contact with you. It's not sent to the right person. It's very brief. Not such a good letter of recommendation. And this happens because I think this person was like the dean, and this is the template that they use. This was just a template. You go to them, say, I want a letter of recommendation. They say, oh, no problem. Okay, here is give us your name and whatever. And then they just punch in and submit. When you complete it, this is a very weak letter of recommendation. If you have something like this, please think twice. It has to be something. So there was no conversation between these two, and this thing was written by the dean. The dean never taught this person, but according to at the time, this institution would say you need to get a letter of recommendation from the dean. Because apparently a lecturer cannot write on a headed paper on. I don't know how it is now with this University of Zambia, but anyway, this was the problem that we ran into with this applicant. So if you have something similar to this, not a good letter of recommendation. I want to now demonstrate the same letter now rewritten in a way for shifting in a way that's now after the person had provided the dean a draft of something that could do. And this is how it is. As you can see, again, it's a headed paper. The address is there, the date, clearly it's addressed to the British High Commission in Lusaka. The address is there, the selection committee, recommendation for this person. So in this thing, you see I've shaded some information which I don't want to be out there, but also highlighted a few things which should be in the letter of recommendation. So this starts to, I write to strongly recommend Miss this person for the Chevening Scholarship. Very clear what this letter is for. It's not for Commonwealth, it's not for whatever. So this already tells you that this letter will try to speak to the points that were raised, things that the person needs to talk about. I've known this person since 2012 in my capacity as Associate Professor and Dean of Health Sciences at the University of Zambia, Ridgeway Campus. Since her graduation, I've had the pleasure of mentoring her and providing professional guidance as needed. From the onset, this person distinguished herself as an exceptional student. She demonstrated remarkable diligence, balancing academic responsibility with extracurricular activities. Okay, a little bit vague, but headed in the right direction. I had the opportunity to teach her in both medical microbiology and immunology. So this is very specific. What did this person teach this person? And how are they confidently speaking about this? So they highlight, and if you saw, this person actually got A's in both medical microbiology and immunology. So that's why I advise that she highlights those things in the recommendation letter. So during which she actively engaged in class discussions and consistently asked insightful, thought-provoking questions. Yeah, a little vague, but we can allow it. She frequently sought clarifications on complex topics during office hours, demonstrating a determination and commitment to mastering challenging material. It's therefore no surprise that she graduated in the top 10% of her class. So again, that was clearly related, demonstrated on the transcript. So in case they want to check, there it's there on the transcript, which shows your position in class. So this person was 10% of a class. Beyond the academic achievement, she was a vibrant member of the community. She played a key role in revitalizing the biomedical society at UNZA, serving as a committee member where she advocated for the welfare of biomedical students and organized career talks featuring leading professionals in the field. In addition, she actively participated in sports, serving as the vice captain of the volleyball team, which secured third place in the intercampus competition in 2014. So a little bit of specificity. So this person is demonstrating that I know this person, and this is a well-rounded individual, not only in academics, but she's also co-curricular work. Following her graduation, this person's professional trajectory has been nothing short of impressive. Within 4 months of being deployed to this district hospital, she was promoted to laboratory in charge, where she led a team of 8 and managed a lab conducting approximately 3,000 tests per week. Outstanding performance in this role resulted in a promotion to the lab focal point person for the district, where she now supervises 9 district labs and supports 43 healthcare facilities with lab commodities. In pursuit of further professional development, oh yeah, there is the name. Master of Public Health, and she pursued an MS in control of infectious diseases, a testament to commitment to advancing our expertise and making meaningful contribution to the field. So it's talking about how this person went on to pursue a master's in a specific subject. Having mentored her through her career, I'm confident that she will excel in the field of infectious disease control. Her leadership, dedication, and determination to make a meaningful impact are evidence in all our endeavors. I strongly recommend this person for achieving a scholarship as it will provide her with opportunity to enhance her skills and make significant contribution to improving public health in Zambia. And thank you for consideration. And then signature, and there it is. So as you can see, there's a clear difference between this essay and the first one, which was written using a generic template. It didn't have a lot of meat. This essay didn't touch on all the points that Chevening asks for, but it was almost there 90% of the time. It had some generic sentences, vague sentences, but by and large, you could see there were some numbers there. You could see how the relationship speaks to how this person is a better candidate. So now I'm gonna demonstrate a third letter. This one will be more useful for Commonwealth applicants. This was a letter of recommendation that someone recommended me and this was a personal referee. So this person, the relationship I have with this person, I used to follow them on LinkedIn and Facebook. Time I was a student in Russia, and this person used to submit a lot of things, post a lot of things. So he posted that he was actually in Moscow, my city. So, wow, I'm also in Moscow. This person was a Fulbright scholar at the time. They became my mentor. They were working for the WHO. I really wanted to pursue that path of working in public health, so I got to know this person. So the time he was attending a meeting in Moscow. He had posted on Facebook, "Hey, I'm also in Moscow. Can we meet up?" And we met at a lengthy talk. I told him I enjoyed what he posts and who he is, and I would like to pursue a path which was similar to what he had pursued. And we clicked, and then over the years, this has been my go-to person. So, recommendation for Dr. Chimbasanga, MD. It's my great pleasure to recommend Dr. Chimbasanga for the Commonwealth Scholarship. Again, very specific. This is not a letter which you put up as generic, say, this scholarship. I would like to recommend this person for this scholarship. It has to mention it. Commonwealth Scholarship. I've known him and I've been his mentor for the past 4 years. I'm a global health diplomat and and worked previously as Deputy Director, Emergency Health Services at Ministry of Health, Zambia, and earlier in my clinical care as these things that I've shared. I initially met him in Moscow, Russia, while attending this meeting in my capacity at the time as the Republic of Zambia's whatever representative to the UN or UN's office in Geneva and Vienna. At the time, Chimba was still an undergrad student about to graduate from medical school. It was at this time that I learned of his desire to pursue a career in global health later in his life. Since then, I've been one of his mentors, providing guidance in his professional career. So this person has got credibility. They've talked about why they qualify to be that person or referee, because this person has been my mentor, who's been mentoring me since, who had been mentoring me at this point for about 4 years. And of course, it was up to me to maintain that relationship. But this is a busy person, as you can see, a lot of credibility representing Zambia to the UN, WHO. So they've got a lot moving, going their way. Chimba's always distinguished himself as an outstanding individual both in his personal and professional life. He is a passionate, hardworking, and strongly driven young doctor whose track record of achievement speaks for itself. In 2008, he scooped a general scholarship to study general medicine in Russia, where he graduated with honors and as one of the best students at the Russian National Research Medical University in 2015. Okay, so it starts my journey. Some of this information is from the CV. Having already received the scholarship is already is pointing towards me being a person that can, receive more more scholarship. There's no doubt that he had to work extra harder to overcome the challenges of studying in a foreign language in order to graduate with honors, which was, I think, something I told him to highlight. I used to study in a foreign language, studied in Russian, and graduated with honors, which for me was such a good thing. It was a highlight. In 2016, when he was employed as junior resident medical officer by the Zambian Ministry of Health, he expressed interest in publishing a book about deadly medical myths in Zambia. This was motivated by frustrations he faced in clinical practice from several patients that had refused certain treatment options due to their hard-held traditional myths and tradition. Being keen on making a difference, he wrote and published a book on deadly medical myths in Zambia in order to enlighten both the health workers and the community on medical myths that interfere with clinical practice. I helped in editing this book and was really impressed with his thought process and the amount of research he put in. Amazingly, he was able to research and publish a book while holding on to a full-time job, which requires him to put in more than 50 hours a week. This is the time I was doing my internship as a medical doctor. It's very stressful time, but during that time, I was able to carve out some time to publish a book. And of course, this book, I think last interactions we had, somebody asked whether what kind of publications you need to put. For me, This was not even in an academic journal, it was just a book. Put it on Amazon, self-published on Amazon, still there up to now. If you want, you can check it out. But there was a link to this book, and people could reach out and see that I was trying to make a difference more than just being in the ward as a clinician, as a medical doctor. I was doing more. I was doing more. So he put this in. He helped to edit this book. We did back and forth, and this is something that really prompted me during the time. I think this, for me, this was the something which 90% of the people are not doing that I think I did. So in November 2018, he was selected by the Young African Leaders Initiative YALI of the United States of America State Department to do a 4 weeks professional course in public management and governance at the University of South Africa, UNISA, to augment his efforts to promote health. So already I was selected out of so many people. I wish he had put some numbers there to show how competitive it was. But anyway, he didn't. I'm confident that this outstanding young man can also make a difference in the global health space. He has already demonstrated leadership and tremendous effort in going beyond his mandate to improve the health of his community. I strongly encourage you to consider him for the Commonwealth Scholarship, which will help him acquire more of the skills he needs to make a meaningful contribution to the health of our people in Zambia and in our sub-region. Feel free to contact me, and then before sincerely, there are some information about his contact details. So this is a very good example of someone who's not my relative, but who's provided a professional recommendation, right? And hopefully you can find someone like that, especially for the Commonwealth. I see a lot of people face a lot of hurdles and trying to get this 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 particular referee. I want to check if I have one more, and then we can have a discussion. Okay. So, as some of you may know, I'm pursuing an MPH at Harvard, and I'm in my second year. So this was my academic letter of recommendation that was provided by my professor at the London School of Economics and Political Science, where I got my master's in global health policy from the Commonwealth Scholarship. So it was recently released in 2023. Okay, as you can see, the address is there. It's on a headed paper. Well and nice, looks so beautiful. MPH application recommendation for Dr. Sanga Chimba. It is my pleasure to recommend Dr. Chimba Sanga for admission to the Master of Public Health in Epidemiology at Harvard T.H. Chan University. I am professorial research fellow at the Department of Health Policy, London School of Economics and Political Science. I am part of the LSE team working on the African Health Observatory Platform on Health Systems and Policies, a collaborative partnership fostering cross-country learning to promote knowledge exchange and evidence-informed policymaking. In addition, I teach the master's level courses at LSE. During the academic year 2019 to 2020, I taught the Financing Healthcare course, and Sanga was one of my students. So this person has taken some time trying to talk so much about their credibility, who they are, and why it, she's a professor, assistant professor, she's working on this huge thing she's proud of, and then has also mentioned that, we met because she taught me this course, which was part of her duties. Dr. Sanga studied for the Taught Master's Program in Global Health Policy at the London School of Economics from September 2019 and completed his coursework in May 2020. Following this, he worked on his dissertation independently, submitting it in August 2020. Under my supervision, he consistently demonstrated a desire to learn and apply the learnings, especially in his home country, Zambia. And this is something that used to happen during the lectures. I would be like, but yeah, how does that apply to Zambia? Or how does, Zambia's got this thing, how does that apply? So she really found that fascinating. Beyond his academic achievement, he showed a profound interest in other topics and applied health issues. While at LSE, he was the founding editor of the Journal of Health Policy and Economics, a peer-reviewed journal showcasing contributions from LSE students. So when I was there, the publications, like every student there I met was like, well, we need to publish. But then it's difficult to publish in these established journals, but we wanted to showcase the work. So a group of colleagues and we got together and came up with this, journal for the school, for health policy. I hope it's still ongoing. Following the completion of his thought program, Sanga joined Polygia, a UK-based global health think tank, where he made significant contribution to several research projects, with the biggest being a systematic review on health in urban spaces conducted over a period of 2 years. So, joined it was a student-led think tank in the UK, and encourage some of you that will actually make it to the UK. There are these kind of organizations while you are there that give a lot of opportunities that you can join, and that augments and uplifts your CV. So again, here she was highlighting that I worked on a systematic review, which took us over 2 years. It was such a huge topic. It was published in a high impact journal, so you can check it out if you want. But again, you see how to what level this individual knows me. Goes on to say Sanga also actively participated in extracurricular activities while at LSE. He served in the leadership team of the Health Society at LSE, where he coordinated activities including organizing the Health Society's flagship trip to the World Health Organization headquarters. Furthermore, he volunteered at Mid-Air UK, an international organization dedicated to public health, to augment his knowledge in the field of public health. So again, worked for Mid-Air, volunteered at Mid-Air. This gave me international experience, which I was able to put in my CV, and it helped me basically to get my job at CDC, where I currently work. His ability to balance coursework with extracurricular engagement demonstrates his character as a well-rounded student. I'm confident that Sanga's commitment to professional growth aligns with your program. He is a self-starter and dependable, always delivering on time. This attribute was demonstrated, especially during the conduct of dissertation research, analysis, and writing, which he undertook off campus due to the pandemic-related restrictions and with minimal support. So I was part of a cohort that, it was during my studies in the UK that the pandemic, started, COVID-19, and everything was on lockdown. So part of my dissertation, I completed it in the UK, but in lockdown, in the hostel. So this ensured the timely and efficient delivery of academic outputs. He is also a team player and always ready to support others towards achievement of the team goals. His contribution during classes and readiness to share his experiences working in the health sector in a developing country always enrich class discussions. Sanga is an honest individual and strives to make informed judgment on matters requiring his attention. I've continued to engage with Sanga as he navigates his career and research pathways. He is sufficiently motivated, well suited, and capable of undertaking this course and subsequently applying the learnings in a relevant role in future. I believe that he will be a great addition to the cohort of students on the program. Too many will learn from him. I hope that Dr. Chimbasanga's application is considered favorable, and I welcome the opportunity to discuss his abilities and suitability for this course further. So this was a course. First, towards the end, there was a bit of vague statements, but you could see that she was trying to substantiate some of them. And again, this is a professor that I worked with who taught me. I've already maintained the relationship up to now. She's got a project she's doing here in Zambia, comes through. We meet whenever she's around, talk. So I've cultivated that relationship. So whenever there's a scholarship or something I want to apply for, she's willing and ready to submit something. Of course, I may guide a little bit, say, I want you to mention this, and this is something that you can have over dinner, over coffee, just to, try to influence the way they write your letter of recommendation. So this is something that she did. So I've showed you three, I think four recommendation letters. The first one, poor recommendation letter, which none of you should get if you're on this platform. Two, a revised version of that same recommendation letter. Three, a personal recommendation letter for those of you that are applying for Commonwealth, and then a university recommendation letter and how it's supposed to flow. And of course, you see that some of these recommendation letters are supposed to respond to certain prompts that the school or a scholarship body is asking for. So with that, I'll stop my sharing here, and then we can have a discussion if there are any questions. So I'll start with what is in the chat box, and if there, I think there are only, okay, yeah, there's there's a question which I think from Isaac, which I've responded to in my presentation. Can you share the sample recommendations so that we can easily refer to them when engaging our referees? Yeah, I've demonstrated that. Um, and then the next one from Pamela, Chevening, are there only two referees or I can only do one? So it's two. They ask for two. Um, and I think if you go to the website, you can go and read on what happens when you get to interviews. That's where that information is, and then you can have that information. Yes, so I'll ask if there are any questions, feel free to unmute or raise your hand, and then yeah, I can take a few questions. Today we are doing so well on time. Any questions?
Okay, I have a question, sir.
Yes, Jackson, go ahead.
All right, sir. Yeah. So as for me, I want to ask. My undergraduate was sponsored by Chelenge Town Council in Wapra Province. So I don't know what kind of reference letter can I get from that school or from that institution which is sponsored my undergraduate degree. Can I get it as a academic or what kind of reference can I get from that institution?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a very interesting one that you'd want to use a funder to do a letter of recommendation. mm, I think what I would say is better use your referee, not the funding organization. Use the Nchelenge itself if it's a school. Use that as use get someone from there to do the letter of recommendation, not the funding body. It's like for me who's received the Commonwealth scholarship before to try to use the Commonwealth scholarship the commission to write me a letter of recommendation when I'm applying for another scholarship. I think that doesn't describe so well. So I would say don't use a funding body, but if you want to include information that you are funded, feel free to include that in the CV. Feel free to include that in in your essays to demonstrate that you've received a scholarship before. Um, I think that people that receive scholarships attract the scholarship. So I agree. You could include that in your in the information that you submit in one way or the other, but getting a letter of recommendation from there might not be the perfect from the funding board might not be a perfect example. But if you had like a program officer from that funding organization, if you are trying to apply for the Commonwealth, then that person can help you to can be like a personal referee. But yeah, I think that's how I would advise you. I hope that
All
helps.
right, yeah, because before I was working there at Nchelenge Town Council. Then after I worked for 1 year and some 6 months, that's when they said we can able to sponsor you for your degree program.
Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. If you're working from there, then that's a profession. You can get like a professional uh letter of recommendation from them. Yeah. Okay. See another question here for Commonwealth scholarship. Are two recommendations enough? They ask for three. And you should provide those three. And again, put them in a single file. Someone has you get the three, but put them in a single file and submit. If they ask for four, put four. If they ask for five, put five. If they ask for six, as the Commonwealth Scholarship requests, the Rhodes Scholarship, put six. Usually for universities are the ones that will say, we want three, but once you submitted two, we can start reviewing your application, but we'll still wait for the third one. Others will say, we are requesting for two, but once one is submitted, we can review your application and wait for the second one. That's usually for university applications, but for Commonwealth and Chevening, put the two for Chevening and two for the three for Commonwealth. Okay. Any other questions before we end a little bit earlier today?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for this section. My question is with respect to signatures. Electronic signatures, are they valid, or must referees must they print out the reference letter, sign and scan, or are electronic signatures okay?
Yeah, very interesting question that you have. When I did my Commonwealth, for some reason, the school, London School of Economics and Political Science, asked me to provide uh, original referees, and I was very surprised what that meant. But when I submitted my work, the person was refused when I was registering for the course. Now I traveled to the UK. Now during registration, before they gave me my ID card, I saw this guy get his hand, put his mouth to put some saliva, and then he was pushing on the, on the actual document, and I could see that it was ink, and the signature was ink, and that's how they accepted that. So I didn't know what to make of it. So, but I've seen for Commonwealth, I think two of my mentees, the 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 signatures were actually electronic, so I think I think that's fine. I don't know if there are any repercussions now, because a lot of organizations do, electronic signatures. Okay. Any other question? Okay. Pamela says, for Chevening, my essay experiences are only professional, not academic. Will this affect my application? So I don't know what you mean by this, Pamela. I don't know if you'd want to get off mute and ask. But for
Yes.
yeah.
I'm on. Okay. So what I mean is, for instance, like my leadership experience essay, right? Majority of the experiences that I'm drafting and putting in there, these are experiences that I've gained from my professional aspect or professional side. However, none are coming from academic. So I wanted to know if that will impact my recommendation from my academic mentor.
So not necessarily. Professional experience. You see, Chevening is so big on your leadership, and leadership that you attain after school, and that's why they're putting that 2 year requirement now, enforcing that your 2 year work experience should be post graduation from your undergrad degree. So that's fine. You can put that. For your academic referees, if your referees are about to talk about your experiences, let them talk about your experiences at the time that you were at school. I think that's what I've demonstrated from the essays. It should at the time that you were at school. So it doesn't really matter if your essays are quite different from the letters of recommendation. Remember, the letters of recommendations are supposed to be written by your referees, right? But here we are having this
Yes.
hack where we can try to do it for them in a way that benefits us. But if that's not possible, you providing your essays tries to reinforce the things that you're talking about, even when you're talking about things that happened after you left school. If you're talking about leadership, it's from there that they can see, your referees will see that this person has gone on to become a leader. They were a leader at school and have continued to be a leader. I hope that helps, Pamela.
It does. It does. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So you have homework to do. Let me see, where's the presentation? Okay. You have homework to do. Find your, reach out to your referees. Between now and Wednesday next week, reach out to them. Make sure you've already drafted your letters of recommendation. Make sure you've drafted your extended CV. In case they don't want a draft of a letter of recommendation, draft your extended CV that puts in all the information in paragraphs. Give them a deadline, which is at least 3 days before the actual deadline. For university applications, if the application is asking you to, is just asking for an email and they're sending it to your referee, you need to at least test the system. So have a mock thing. That's why I always encourage people to have at least 2 email addresses. One that you use for the actual application, but the one that you're using to test things. So let's see how it comes. If the thing is asking for your referee to submit a PDF version of a recommendation letter, that's fine. But if the system is asking them to answer questions that they input in the system, that becomes a little bit difficult. But what you can do is, if you want to send them a draft, look at what this prompt for the university application is asking for and write those answers. Or for prompt number 1 or for space number 1, which is asking this is the response, this is the, so it's easy for them. Okay. And then communicate with them actively over this period. Send them good highs, how are you, what are you doing, so that you're always on their mind. Okay, thank you so much, colleagues, for joining this meeting. I hope you learned 1 or 2 things that is going to make your scholarship a very which is going to help you submit a very strong scholarship application. And we'll continue interacting. Next week, we start breaking down the essays. So the first essay we are looking at next week is the leadership essay. And I hope you will be you will join next week so that you know what and what not to do. I'll provide a template which things has worked for most people when submitting, when drafting these essays, that at least touches all the things that you're supposed to do for your application. So have a lovely night, and please keep the Ambitious Scholars WhatsApp group active. If you've learned 1 or 2 things, I would appreciate if you could post it in there so that people can also appreciate and join these meetings. For the recording, it will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. I don't know at when that should be when that will be done. It will require a bit of editing before I post it on my YouTube channel, so it may not be immediately. But I look forward to having as many people joining next week when we start doing the essays. So next week, Wednesday, see you all. Bye bye.